and Europe are impacted by the unpredictability of the new tariff approach and the end of a rule-based order for our trade. And this is something which will impact our prosperity, our capacity to finance our defense efforts, and something which will require much more cohesion. All these challenges I've just mentioned are the perfect illustration of the fact that we are living in a time where what we have to do is to face these challenges and to take into consideration that both the Europeans and the Asians are much more intertwined than we thought. But the question now is how to act concretely in order to deliver the strategic autonomy agenda. This is a challenge for Europe, this is a challenge for your region, and this is a common challenge. Because this is the only way to preserve freedom, prosperity, and security. Let me start by Europe first. We cannot overestimate the depth of the mental revolution brought about by Russia's aggression and the concerns about alliances. But let's be clear, I've advocated for years more independence, more sovereignty, more strategic autonomy for all Europe. Let's be clear, there was a doubt during a few years. But in March 2022, the European Union decided very clearly a strategic autonomy agenda. And we decided on defense and security, on technology, on industry, on energy, on all the different fields to reduce our dependencies and de-risk our model. It is absolutely critical in the current environment. And during the past few months, based to the work we colored with the British Prime Minister, the coalitions of the willings, and the strong coordination with some leaders, with Chancellor of Germany, Prime Minister of Poland, but a whole bunch of countries of the European Union and a lot of allies, we built this coalition of the willings regarding the Russian war in Ukraine. And the message was very clear. We will work together to the very end to provide security guarantees to the Ukrainians, to build a robust peace in this region of the world, and to reinvest on our own defense and security, because Russia will remain an existential threat for us. This is the second wake-up call after 2022. And what we will do, what we are doing, is to increase till 3.5% GDP our defense expenditure. Probably we will go further and faster. But this is the willingness of the Europeans to build their independence in terms of defense and security, which is consistent with the request and the fair request of the United States of America, which is to say, you should take more of the burden for your own security. We cannot afford anymore with all the expenditures for your security. A third of the expenses on the eastern flank of NATO is taken by the US. We need the Europeans to do much more for themselves. But at the same time, we need the Europeans to be much more independent for themselves, meaning building their own capacities and capabilities, developing their own industries, and working by choice with the US, with partners here in the region, but not depending on anybody, especially for our own security. This is our agenda. This is the agenda of strategic autonomy. In parallel, this is what we want on AI, what we want on technology, on industry. We want to increase our strategic autonomy. It will request a lot of investment, and obviously, it will request as well a much more competitive Europe. This is why, and I link this to agenda, it's an emergency to accelerate the competitiveness agenda of the European Union, because this is the only way to make the security agenda and the autonomic strategy agenda credible. Meaning we have to deepen the single market, we have to streamline our regulation, and sometimes to kill some of these regulations to be much more attractive, and we have to accelerate our capacity to build new single markets, especially in finance with capital market union, especially to fund what I'm saying with private money, to be much more efficient on energy and telecom. Second, we want to build new partnerships. And it's part of the strategic autonomy. And based on the assessment that between ASEAN and Europe, we have these common challenges and these common threats. We want to work more actively on a common agenda. France presented in 2018 an indo-pacific strategy based on our capacity to propose a third way, which is to say, a lot of you are afraid and concerned by the respect of the liberty of sovereignty, liberty of navigation,